YouTube is
Hello.
up.
Yeah, hello. It's a organic live stream. And our guest today is Inge Bruggeman, the director of the CODEX Foundation in the United States in Berkeley, California. Hi, Inge. Nice to have you
Hello, thank you
here.
for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. Um, I'm Stepan Chizhov. As usual, I'm in Windsor, England, and my co-host is Pavel Voronin, who is in Serbia, in Belgrade. Hi, Pasha.
Hi, nice to see everyone.
Yeah. So we haven't been following a strict schedule of live streams recently because of lots of things, but we hope to gradually return to our more how to say regulated or standard routine when we stream at least every 2 weeks or something like that. And for March we have 3 streams already planned, so yeah, that will be a lot. But today we start with book arts and Codex Foundation and Codex book arts fairs. So yeah, that's that. Uh, as we discussed a bit earlier before we started our stream, we prefer to start our streams by asking our guests to introduce themselves, to talk a bit about how they came to making books or doing book arts or something like that. So, Inge, would you please tell us a bit about yourself?
Sure. I'll try to make this not condensed version. But I think I was always, as many of you probably are, were interested in books from a young age. And I did a lot of printmaking. But as an undergraduate in college, I was a French literature major, and there happened to be a class on the 20th century livre d'artiste. And so I took this class, which it was covered France, Europe, some Russian artist books of the 20th century, but I was just hooked by this class. I took it twice. The class met in a special collections department, so I got a student job in special collections. And I was directed to one of my first mentors, Harry and Sandra Reese of Turkey Press, who are at UC Santa Barbara, University of California, Santa Barbara. So I started doing more than just printmaking, but thinking about books and working in special collections. And ever since then, I've been following that path. I got my MFA at the University of Alabama book arts program. At the time in the United States, excuse me, there were maybe 2 or 3 places where you could get an MFA in book arts in particular at the time. And strangely, one of them was in Alabama, but I had
Yeah.
some really good.
That's what I wanted to say, because it started in California and then Alabama. It's different sides of the country, sort of.
Yeah, definitely a culture shock within the United States. You can get pretty good culture shock going to different parts of the country. But I had a great time there. Steve Miller was particularly influential letterpress and book arts teacher there when I was there. And I went on to do, at the time, Minnesota Center for Book Arts had a 2-year residency. So it was paid, not paid well, but you could, move there, do the residency in printing. And, I waited tables and did that kind of thing for quite a while. And then started teaching and was invited back to UC Santa Barbara. So I've been teaching at the college level for about 25 years or so. Moved to Portland, Oregon, and taught at the Oregon College of Art and Craft with Barbara Tettenbaum. That was a great experience. And
Portland is a
had shorter
beautiful
stints.
place.
What?
Sorry. Portland is a beautiful place. I,
It's
I,
very beautiful,
I,
very
I,
green.
I once had a layover there because, well, I had an issue with my flights and I was redirected to oh, I forgot where I was flying, but whatever. I had a 1 hour in Portland and I enjoyed it quite a lot. Sorry.
That's a quick stop, but yeah, you can it's a beautiful flying in, lots
Yeah.
of rivers and greenery and
Yeah.
hills, and yeah, it's nice. Um, And I also ran a business in Portland too. I taught part-time and I ran a business. It was called Texture, letterpress printing and book arts for other publishers or designers. And I printed a few books for Granary Books in New York, which was kind of a highlight of a lot of the work that I did, but also worked with quite a few artists and designers in Portland on really interesting projects. And finally decided to try to go all in on the academic full-time teaching, and I got a job at the University of Nevada, Reno, where I did get a tenure position. And I enjoyed being there for 7 years, but I think by about 25 years of teaching, I was kind of ready for a change of pace. And I was going to take my sabbatical here in the Bay Area, and was asking, if the CODEX Foundation might need some help. And I just kind of was leaning and fell, fell very quickly. Everything snowballed very quickly. I just ended up not taking sabbatical and moving to take this position with the CODEX Foundation. I think I've always thought of my work as an artist, also, the art practice as being something that involves the scholarship and working to promote the field as part of it. So, I've served on a lot of boards of book arts organizations and worked as editor of some book arts journals. And I thought this is a great opportunity to kind of keep going with that work. And trying now, the challenge is finding time to get back into my own studio. But that's kind of the trajectory, I guess.
Yeah, a lot of interesting stuff. So for how long did you work with Codex to the moment? When did you
I
start
think
working for Codex?
I'm coming up on about 3 years. I started, it was still during the pandemic, and I started when I was in Reno. Actually, Reno, Nevada it's only about a 3.5-hour drive to the Berkeley area. And so I started helping long distance and then moved here. So it's been about 2 years of working since I've been here.
And could you talk a bit about how this world of popularization of book arts works in America? Where does the money come from? How do you keep yourself afloat?
Yeah, this is it's a big question always when you're teaching, because the students want to know, what am I going to do with this? And it was always a question for me. I think I fell so kind of profoundly in love with book arts and artist books that I was able and willing to move wherever there was an opportunity that could kind of keep me afloat um, and keep me learning. And I think that's one of the things about the book arts field too. When I first found it or understood what it was, I just thought, I'm never going to get bored. There's so many things to learn and keep learning in this field, from book binding to paper making, all the different kinds of image making processes you can do. But so I think there are a lot of offshoot kind of jobs one could hold while you're being a book artist that can connect to different arts communities. I mean, of course, some people want to go into and keep teaching, maybe while they're being book artists. It's hard. I think it's been hard for me. I've never maybe had the bravery to just jump totally into only being someone who makes artist books. I've always had something, most of it being teaching, sometimes workshops, traveling, giving a talk or workshop, but always kind of holding on to an academic institution as a way to have support to make work. And even now, I've been doing this for some decades, and it's always a challenge to adjust and balance the time and money. As far as like where is the money coming from? Maybe in the United States, for people who are just trying to survive as artists. I would say, there are the private collectors, but we do have a pretty good level of collecting that happens within the special collections departments of libraries. And that does support a lot of people globally. I mean, I think that's why a lot of people do come to the CODEX Book Fair, for example, is that in some countries, there are good special collections, but maybe they don't have huge budgets, or there's not as much collecting as there seems to be here for the moment. So we're cross our fingers that keeps going. And then, like I said, I think there are people who do really the creative ways of making careers, and especially right now, you see a lot of letterpress printers who are developing a practice around social practice and serving kind of society's needs. So a lot of workshops and giving voice to people through a really tangible kind of medium like letterpress or book arts. There are, I think, maybe instead of thinking about, I'm going to make this work of my own and market this work, they're thinking of maybe they do that also, but they're thinking of other ways of extending what they do to being an organization or a nonprofit that serves people and uses the arts to help do that.
You mentioned that you work with different book arts magazines during your career. Are there many book arts magazines remaining in the US now? Because it seems that it's like most of them didn't survive 90s or maybe early 2000s, something like that. Are there any remaining besides I don't know, professional bulletins like the newsletter of the Guild of Bookworkers or something like that? But it's different.
Yeah, there aren't a lot, and it's too bad I don't have a lot of others. I do have a huge range of stuff I can show you with my copy camera too, but like we published this Codex Papers journal.
Yeah.
There's 4 of them, and they're not money makers. As a nonprofit, we're trying to continue doing it, and we have other projects that are fundraising for the publications because we really believe the scholarship is important, and trying to promote the journals help to promote the work in the field and promote the artists and librarians and collectors and craftspeople. But there's also Fine Press Book Association has its journal Parentheses, which is still going strong. That comes out twice a year, and Fine Press Book Association is kind of an interesting organization because they have it's split, and they have an editorial team and group that runs the organization in the UK, and then one in the US, well, North America. And so one issue comes from them and one from us. It's a confusing organization to be on the board of because of that, but does make it more interesting, I think. They have kind of different flavors, and it's nice to see how they overlap and inform one another. The UK issue tends to be a little bit more traditional fine press with some artist book, and the North American is more artist book with a little bit of fine press, and so they are a good support. And the Book Art Review, New York Center for Book Arts recently has started publishing also this journal, and I think to help with theoretical and critical dialogue in the field. I'm trying to think of what else. There's the American Printing History Association, which has a nice journal also, and you get different book clubs. Like in California here, we have the Book Club of California, which does a lot of publishing. But you're right, they're all smaller, and they kind of are small subscriber based. I would say too, one of the most beautiful journals that is published in the US that I know of is Hand Paper Making Journal.
Yeah.
And yeah, really nicely produced, and little samples inside, and a wide range of work. Yeah, so there's some interesting things happening. I might maybe missing someone, but
Could you talk a bit more about the Codex papers, perhaps about who designed them, because they're such a sexy item, especially as a set, and what's in it, and where
um,
can people buy it, for that matter?
yeah, well, it's available on our website. We also have cut the price pretty much in half. I think before I got here, they were trying on the model of we're trying to pay for the whole journal and come out ahead. And it was expensive. It was like $75 per issue. And I think that cut some people out of getting it. But we did find more affordable printing without kind of compromising on the quality, which helped a lot. And so we've switched gears. But maybe I'll switch to the camera and show you.
Yeah, sure,
Just
absolutely.
okay. Let's see. Here we go. Okay, so they do look kind of nice together. The covers are letterpress printed in-house here. We have at our CODEX Foundation kind of relatively new center here that we're working in. It's the Logan Book Art Center. We do the letterpress printing. The insides are digitally printed. And they're kind of a variety of essays. These three previous issues were edited by Gerald Cloud and Peter Koch, one of the founders of CODEX Foundation. And then now we're moving forward with this on a guest editor model. So Sarah Hulsey, who's an artist in Boston, was the guest editor, and we linked up with our theme for the symposium to produce this, and she and I worked together. This article is by Daniel Mellis. He's in Minneapolis, and he did a really amazing facsimile of Tango with Cows by Kaminsky. And so you have a range of articles by different people. Sometimes we put in this one by Patricia Lagarde, who's in Mexico City. We put in symposium talks into the journal, maybe one or two per issue. So this one is in Spanish and English about her moon archive. Tatiana Bergelt and her project Tete-a-Tete. Tatiana Bergelt wrote it with Stephen Blackwell in the form of letters. That's why I don't know if you can see, but there's two colors. And it's based on Vladimir Nabokov and the Polyomatus blue butterflies. Anyway, there's reviews. There's Bringhurst, Robert Bringhurst talk, which symposium talk. Sometimes there's kind of photo essays and studio visits. So someone visited Dots Press in South Korea and wrote, Amanda Marchand wrote this article about Dots Press. And then it ends with some reviews. This one's Cliff Metters, Dead Life. So I'm not sure if I answered all the questions. I'm going to switch back now. There we go. But
sort of, but now I definitely want a copy. want to order a copy.
They're really great to make. We started off, Codex started off trying to do them once per year, but I think they'll be biennial. It's a little bit more manageable. And Stephanie Stilo, who is the new librarian at the Library of Congress, is going to be our next guest editor. So we're really excited about that.
Interesting. So will they coincide with the Codex fairs, or will they go on in separate years?
Yeah, that right now they're tending to coincide so that we try to finish it a month or two before the fair, before we start really ramping up.
Okay. So I guess let's firstly I'd like to address to our viewers, and Pavel already wrote about it. But if you would like to share from where you are joining us, it's always interesting to see from which country, town, city, place people are watching our live streams. If you have any questions, please post them either on YouTube or on Facebook. And also, please check the links in the description. There are links to Inge's website, to the CODEX Foundation website. There is more information about the foundation and fairs there, of course. But we'll talk about it a bit more now, I guess, or a bit later. So please post your comments. Han Fleet wrote, who is our regular viewer, but not today, unfortunately. He wrote, this looks like it will be very good. I'm traveling home at the time, but look forward to watching it when I get back. So unfortunately, he's not with us today. But maybe we'll see some
It's a
other.
really great, it's a
Yeah.
great service that you're doing this, like, global interviews and information. When I finally found you some months ago and watched, I was really impressed with all the work that you're doing here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun doing this work, so it's
More
beneficial
importantly,
for everybody, I guess. But that's a good thing, by the way. That's a good point. That's if you are watching this video, please like and subscribe, because it really helps to spread the word about book art. Because unfortunately, we do not get that many views on YouTube, but we then repost on Instagram and get thousands of views there, which is much more like helping our egos or something like that. But still, please subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, and check CODEX Foundation Instagram also. So, should we talk about the CODEX Fair? You just said that you joined it during COVID or right before COVID, so it was a tricky time to join, I guess, a bookbinding fair. Many events were closed. CODEX Fair was also postponed, as far as I remember. But also there was a huge history of CODEX fairs before you joined the foundation. So how did it start? How did it come to COVID times, and what's happening now?
So CODEX Foundation was founded by Peter Koch and Susan Filter. And here in Berkeley, for a long time, it was a desk, a little office in Peter Koch's print studio. And yeah, we're lucky enough, kind of as I was coming on, Peter and I met Dan Logan at a one of the CODEX fairs, the one that was postponed from COVID, and began a conversation about the possibility of looking for new spaces. And the Rivada Foundation and Dan Logan really helped us to move into new spaces, which was really huge because the real estate is not easy to deal with here in Berkeley to have a nonprofit organization. But yeah, Peter and Susan founded this in 2005, and the first fair and symposium was in 2007. And then, of course, every other year. And with COVID, really, we just postponed it 1 year to kind of get through the worst of it. And it was then, try to get my years right, 2022, because we were in uneven years of 2019, and then 2022 we had postponed a year, and we were all wearing masks and had to prove vaccination to get in. The line outside was really long, it was messy, but and now everything is, we had just held the last fair, but all of our venues were brand new. We were in this, it was a very beautiful view on the water, on the bay, and you could see San Francisco across the bay. the Craneway Pavilion, but somebody took out a very long, excuse me, someone took out a very long lease on the building for, I don't know, I hope you don't have it in Europe, pickleball. Someone turned it into a sport club, a pickleball club, and shut it off for public use. There were normally a lot of public use of the space, but we had to find new venues for the fair itself, the symposium. But yeah, now we're kind of adjusted and getting our feet and kind of moving forward in some new spaces.
Nice. So how does it usually look, the fair? I mean, how many participants do we get? I mean, who are presenting their books or tools or whatever, and how many visitors you usually get?
Maybe this is a good time. Should I do the PowerPoint? I just have a
Yeah,
few
sure,
images to
absolutely.
illustrate. I'll
Let's do that.
illustrate there and I'll try to fill in kind of a little bit on the numbers. So I'm going to share my screen to do this. Here we go. So this is the new space we ended up in. It's called the Henry Kaiser, it's going to be called Henry Kaiser Arts and Culture Center. And it's under renovation. It was still under renovation when we had our fair, unfortunately.
Okay.
Most everyone were good sports about it, but it was a little bit colder than usual. We also had a Category 4 rainstorm, so we were very busy putting out little small fires in this new space. Anytime you move, a big fair like this, there's always new things to adapt to, but this was a bit of a challenge. But it's a really unique, interesting building, historic building, and will be really nice when it's finished renovating. But you can see there are a lot of tables. We had about 203 exhibitors. 203 tables. So
Okay.
more like 220, 230 exhibitors. Some people share tables. A few people get more than one table, but most people stick to one. And you can see there's a few tables along the edges that have some wall space. The people, let's see, the amount of people who come to this fair part, we always try to promote it as the fair and symposium because there is this educational aspect to it of the symposium. But in total, there are probably,
Oh, I see Mark there.
yeah,
Okay.
some people are vendors.
Yeah.
We had quite a few leather vendors actually. And then of
I,
course the
I,
first time.
I wanted to join the Codex Fair for a couple of years already. I think I first wrote to somebody in the foundation in 2018, but it was already late to join the 2019 fair or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2022 was not good for me, so I hope for 2024.
I hope so too. It's really quite an event, and people really seem to appreciate being able to come together and see each other's work, and collaborations form while people are there. People can find new tools and materials. And yeah, we met our new friends at Istanbul Mujalits Institute, which was really great to have them. You have Dominic Riley,
Oh, Dominic, yeah.
bookbinder. The people that actually come, we usually have maybe between 2,000 and 3,000 visitors to the fair. It depends.
Is it a 1 day event or is it a 2 day event? How does it work?
It's actually 4 days.
4 day. Okay, yeah.
Um,
I'm off the
and
mark, completely off the mark.
yeah, people travel so far that, we hesitate to make it. Sometimes we talk about changing it to 3 days, but the people who travel far always want to get the most of it. And then we have the opening day, which is people set up, and then it's a good half day. And then 2 days where the mornings are the symposium, and then the afternoon is the fair. And then the last day is the fair, and then packing up, cleaning up. But there are also a whole lot of events with other local organizations, exhibitions, receptions, lectures and talks, because in the Bay Area, we have a lot of book arts friends. The San Francisco Center for the Book is here. The Letterform Archive is a really great resource. Kala Art Institute over here in Berkeley, Arian Press, also people that do a lot of lectures and making and activities, so that we pair up with, I guess. This was the first year.
And how does the symposium work? Do you have keynote speakers?
So the symposium, I'll just go through kind of wide range of work, from fine binding to alternative structures.
And that's what I also wanted to ask you. I don't know. You choose in which order to answer our questions, Pavel, or mine first. But who is the main type of participants? I guess what the main type of work that is presented? Is it artist books? Is it fine bindings? Is it I don't know. I suppose it's not vendors of binding tools and materials, but who is the main core group of participants?
Usually, as you enter into the venue, we usually put organizations. So some of the organizations that I just mentioned, they have tables, other nonprofits or some academic institutions, programs in the United States. There are some that it's kind of grown how many institutions teach book arts, and then maybe their students come and they show student work. So there's organizations, academic institutions, there are vendors, not a whole lot, but there are a few. And then there's kind of a range of, I would say it's probably most artist books, but there are a fair amount of fine press printers, small press publishers. We focus, there's such a huge range of work in the book arts field, which as a nonprofit, the CODEX Foundation wants to participate in the overall ecology and range of work being made in the field. But for the fair, we don't want it to get any bigger really than it already is. And so we try to focus on books that are limited edition, that are handmade books, that deal with craft, and craft maybe in the broadest sense of that word. Like somebody can be working digitally or even on a risograph printer, but really bringing that up to a high level of artisanry, the use of it. So we are also trying to grow in a way that promotes diversity in the field too. And sometimes that can be difficult if you're only focusing on kind of high craft. So we're starting to think about a lot of that. And but we also want to keep the fair size not too much bigger. And you have so many other fairs like the art book fairs and printed matter fair kind of in New York that are more kind of addressing different areas. So we're trying not to do everything and get too watered down in that way, because there are people who do that, other areas very well too. So I think maybe I answered a little bit of the question. I'll pop over to the
absolutely.
symposium.
Thank you. Thank you.
I just have, I think, maybe 3 pictures. The symposium was really amazing at this last event. This is Forrest Gander, who's a poet. The overall theme was translation, and we often have a handful of the artists who exhibit, who give talks to, there's so much to see at the fair. We often don't get the chance to look at a lot of the work. And so the symposium's a moment to slow down And people don't talk about like their whole background. They talk about one project in particular. And so we get to see, kind of dive deep into their process and their ideas, and then people can go see the work at the show. But then we also have at the fair, we also have a few speakers. Maybe one might be from a collector perspective or a librarian from a different perspective in that way. And then we have two keynote speakers who are meant to really inspire us, I guess. So Forrest Gander is a poet and a translator. He gave an amazing talk. And our other keynote speaker was Camila Janan Rashid, who's a visual artist, makes books, but a little bit outside of what we, CODEX Foundation kind of focuses on at the fair. And they gave all of them really inspiring talks. I'm just going to grab my drink. My throat is, I'm getting froggy throated. And Radha Pandey, she lives and works in both India and Finland, and is working on a project with Indian craftspeople that gave an amazing talk. I guess that's it. I thought I had one more, but that's it. So I can go ahead and stop that share. But the symposium is very important, I think, to feeding everybody in their work is the way that I like to think about it. Very inspiring talks.
Interesting.
Did I get your questions?
And we have more.
Mine definitely. I think Pavel's as well. But yeah, Pasha, please continue.
I wanted to ask you a bit more about the collector's perspective and perspective of a collecting institution, because it's probably extremely difficult to say something about the collectors as a whole, but perhaps institutions are currently interested in some areas of collecting more than others. What would you say the focus of that world is at the moment?
I think it's always layered and complex. The CODEX Foundation, we're trying to not only promote and assist the artists, but also the collectors, the academics, the students, people who are using the work. I think there was quite a period, and probably still happens, with a lot of special collections where they collect work and then it sits in the vault or on the shelves, and people don't know it's there. So I feel like there is a growing quite a lot of conversation about activating those collections and how they're getting used, and we're trying to participate in that. For example, Ruth Rogers is a librarian, curator, head curator at Wellesley College, which is on the East Coast of the US. And we're teaching a class together here in Berkeley that is kind of for institutional collectors, about like, what do you collect? Why do you collect it? And the issues that grow around collecting and also activating those collections. So we're, Ruth actually organized and taught this seminar once already at Wellesley. And there was a lot of conversation that pulled in professors that were using special collections in really unique ways. And it might be rare books, but often artist books. How are they using those to teach science, for example, or maybe an advanced writing class, being able to come in and use these collections and write about them. So we're really trying to foster these conversations. But as far as what each collection, institution might be collecting, it's always very unique, because an institutional collection grows from what was given or donated to start that collection in the first place. So maybe here at UC, University of California, Berkeley, in the Bancroft Library, where they have their rare books and artist books, there was Bancroft who gave this huge collection, and it focused more on California history. So they're going to collect and continue to collect California history. So if you make an artist book or fine press book that's about that, they might buy it. But every collection is different, and they acquire different people's archives and collections, which then become the foundation for what they collect. So, you know, one person might be really interested in a fine press Shakespeare book because they collect that kind of work, but another collection might not. I do think, though, in overall terms, there are trends. So kind of getting to what you're asking, that a lot of collections reflect contemporary topics because people are teaching from these collections. They're looking for work to talk about with their students that reflect contemporary issues, politics, issues of diversity. So those become popular topics also, right, for collectors. And I could definitely see that at the last fair. I think people who were doing really well were really engaged with that kind of work, and that kind of work was very desirable because people, especially in institutions, will go to their special collections and pull them and use them, and the librarians and curators buy them because of that usage. They don't want to buy stuff that's just necessarily going to sit there per se, unless it has value, you know, in other ways, which is possible too.
Do you feel in general that book arts are safe, or do you feel that it's an endangered art? Because, for example, in the UK there is this list of endangered crafts, and some aspects of bookbinding are listed as endangered. For example, edge decoration or edge painting, it's listed on that list as a endangered craft, and there are sort of officially only a couple of people who are continuing to do that. Some other aspects of book arts, of bookbinding, are not on that list, but still there is this feeling in the UK that there is not enough good continuous education dedicated to book arts anymore here in the UK, or in Europe. It's pretty much the same, I think. What's happening in the US?
I think that's true. People are always concerned about those crafts becoming endangered, and it's true. There are a fair amount of programs that teach book arts, but most of them don't go really profoundly into various levels of craft. Like you're right, like forage painting. I don't know anybody that teaches that in their program. Few might teach fine binding. I think, you know, even paper making, you really have to seek out a particular place where you can, if you want a really profound, deep exploration into those crafts. I think, you know, if you want to get an education in it, it seems to be like maybe you start in a program and kind of get an overall beginning, and then you follow through workshops or internships more specific craft techniques by doing that. But you know, tool making, we also have here in the US a pretty good, you know, you can look for a formal education, but you could also avoid a formal education and take advantage of, say, you could go to the American Bookbinding Academy, which is in Colorado, and would give you this really great experience of a lot more specific crafts revolving around bookbinding than maybe a general college program might. Or other, like there's the paper and book intensive, which is an intensive, like 2-week summer camp for practitioners. It's a really interesting mix of conservators and book artists and fine press people. But conservators, preservationists mixed together with other makers, and they get pretty into very specific crafts. But yeah, I think it is still a bit of a danger that we might lose some of these things, and I think that's definitely something that the CODEX Foundation is trying to help promote. We have what we're calling our master letterpress studio, where we're keeping type. There are a lot of letterpress studios that are all photopolymer, and we're really trying to continue the kind of fine typography and the craft of that. And we would definitely, we're not, since we have San Francisco Center for the Book, which teaches a lot of workshops, we're not kind of as interested in having a whole lot of workshops, but occasional ones that will dive into real specific crafts and a little bit more intermediate advanced level, while also kind of opening attendance up to some scholarships and, trying not for it to not be exclusive, but also trying to persevere with some of these crafts that we don't want to see die out.
And what about a more art historical perspective? Say, if one wanted to study fine bindings and liberal d'artiste from a theoretical point of view, is there a dedicated program? Because all the people who I know who do it now have come in very different ways to those positions.
That's an amazing question. And that's really what we need, is that so many people, we need more people studying this in the art history programs, I think. And there is definitely a lack of it, and so much room for exploration and writing in the field. But I see that too. I don't see a whole lot of there's no program that I know of that focuses on book arts as an art historical, like PhD studies. There must be some, like in Los Angeles, maybe through UCLA, you have a little bit where Johanna Drucker was teaching down there, and Rob Montoya is running the Cal RBS, California Rare Book School, through UCLA. That I think places that have a little bit of activities like this can foster the scholarship from art history studies perspective. And there are other places, and where that is maybe happening on a small level, but for me, I feel like that would be a great thing to work on, is to figure out how to promote students when they're writing their thesis, to be able to choose binding or book arts, artist books.
This is something, or sort of related to something that we discussed quite a lot on this live stream and previously on our podcast, including with the guest with Emily Bell, with whom we recorded a podcast 2 years ago, and it still was COVID time, but we just published the videos just recently because, well, once again, lots of different technical issues and things that prevented us to post it before. But oftentimes, unfortunately, people who work with books as texts, with historical and antique books, are not that interested in structural aspects of books and bindings, which is so upsetting, especially when you, for example, nowadays there are lots of amazing digitized collections on the web, and you browse through them, and almost never you can see details of bindings and I don't know, end bands, book edges, whatever, spines, and this is so upsetting because it's almost no additional effort to digitize these elements, but you just need to have a person who understands that this may be of interest for a community of people. So I really hope that there will be more people interested in book history and binding history in general.
I think so too. And the other thing that I do see growing within a lot of academic institutions is speaking about the material book. And there are more and more people now who are studying maybe an author, but they're really diving deep into the materiality of those books, like the poet and artist Jen Bervin. And she has studied a lot of Emily Dickinson's archives. And so she's doing studies about like every little physicality about the paper and the marginalia and the book, and even from like more of a writing kind of perspective or research, but pulling in the book as an object. And there are more and more people. I feel like that's kind of on the rise, and it connects with book arts and artist books and like the life of a book. I've been teaching a class at UC Bancroft Library at UC Berkeley, and we often talk about that with the rare books. It's not just this thing at one point in time, but it's have this life, and you can tell a story about the life of that object through the marginalia or ink spots or things that people, have happened to the book over time. So paying attention to it as a full object gives us more information about it. But yeah, I do. So I think, there's reason to be optimistic. I do sometimes talk to some people who are like, it just feels like, there's no new interest. But the students that come into my class are it's interdisciplinary. So they come from all different areas, and they're just totally thrilled. The class is small. It can only take 10 people, but there's like twice that many waiting list, and it's super popular. And I think there's this important aspect of humanity where the more that we are on our computers, there's a drawback to some physicality and materiality that and the research. So I have encountered some students who are definitely researching like the materiality side of the books. So there's hope.
My inner hope is also that with advances I always forget how we call it in English. Is it multispectral digitization or something like that? With using different spectrums of light and whatever, it will just make people to be interested in scanning more parts of books, because sometimes they also contain some interesting textual objects or something like that. So maybe we'll see that it will help all of us.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about what a modern librarian working with that kind of material should be, because she should be also a curator and also a scholar and a jack of many trades. I think modern librarian is a very interesting position. I assume you work with many of them.
We do, yeah, and I think you're right. It's interesting too to think about some of the disconnects, possibly for librarians, librarian curators. Some of them have the different titles. But if you go to school to be a librarian, the training you get very frequently might not give you experience with what a fine binding is or what an artist book is. And so I think, thank goodness that there are these schools. We have the Virginia Rare Book School and the one in California Rare Book School, which continue so that librarians and curators can kind of continue their education. If they find themselves in a position in a special collections or related, that they can continue to figure out like, how to use these materials, what they are, and how to deal with them. But to really talk about them and activate those collections, that they really do need to sometimes be multilingual and know about like different content that are in these books, as well as them as kind of artifacts themselves. So yeah, I'm not sure what else to add to that, but to agree, you have to be very multi-talented people.
Masha, you had more questions, I know.
I really wanted to see the objects that you wanted to show. That's probably my next
Okay.
question.
Are these objects more connected to Codex, to your Codex work, or to your personal book arts and printing work?
Yeah, I have several things here, and we could look at a few of them. We probably don't have time to look at everything, but I brought one of my own. I brought, Codex publishes other publications like catalogs. We also have a kind of Saturday group that comes in and makes chapbooks. And maybe, I don't know, we also have what I was showing before we went live, the portfolio of prints I could show. So point me in a direction. I can show anything.
Let's start with Codex stuff and spend, I don't know, at least 10 maybe minutes, 10, 15 minutes on that. And then I really would like to return to your work and to your
Me
book
too.
art.
Okay, well, maybe we'll end, yeah, with the one artist book that I brought.
Perfect.
Okay, so I'll switch the camera again because I think we'll try and see that a little bit better. I have this boxed set. The binding was done by John Demerit. John Demerit Bookbinding does a lot of work here in the Bay Area, but beyond. He collaborates with a lot of artists. And let's see, what do I want to say? We produce these boxed sets, assembling exchange projects that are a collection of prints and kind of related materials. It's really a fundraiser. This funds some of our publication, but it's also to continue to help support the artists and promote their work. These are all people who do artist books, but also do their own kind of illustrations or collaborate with people. So my camera is not always great about focusing, but I'm gonna try to show. When we've done about 4 of these portfolios and usually get the list of the participating artists. I don't know if everyone has this on the large screen, blow up of the screen, but usually when there's a call that goes out for artists, and we get maybe between 25 and 30 or in that range, and they make individual 75 prints. This one is by Francois Rigi, who's a French artist. And it's an engraving, but printed relief. Maybe. Oh. Patricia Lagarde contributed this heliogravure type of photo engraving. I won't show all of them, but there's just a few here. Richard Wagner is a California artist, wood engraving. Sometimes if I can.
Yeah.
I'll get a good focus on there for a minute and then it'll be gone. But the nice thing about these two is that the artists contribute an artist statement and a little bit about the work, the actual piece. This is by a calligrapher, Suzanne Moore, has some foil stamping. It's
Such
printed.
variety of techniques, of colors, of subjects.
Right, here we go. Julie Chen's piece, 100 seconds with pressure printing. And it's a pop-up.
Oh.
This is fun.
It's very playful in structure, but serious, kind of the time is running out on our planet. We're not treating it very nicely. And another colorful one, Denise Bookwalter, who did this really beautiful risograph printed piece. This has volvels these are mushroom spore prints. You can kind of see the chanterelle shape of the mushrooms and the way that she's attached them to the back.
Oh.
So they're really amazing collection of samples of work by some of the best book artists. Tobias Lang in Germany did this really beautiful cyanotype. Not only is the image, I can get it to focus, but the type is a cyanotype too, which was amazing to me.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. That's truly interesting.
That's a new one.
What? This is by Leonard Seastone. So that's kind of, we publish these, they're really wonderful collections. A lot of institutions like these too, because they can show their students, and like you were saying, they can show a lot of different samples of styles of works and techniques. So Materialia Lumina is this one. It's the most recent piece. We also have, so this Saturday Salon is a group that meets still with our founder, Peter Koch, and the group prints, in addition, a chapbook, and they all set the type, hand set the type together and work on the project together. If we can see it, there's a little watermark.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think will be, but the poetry in this one is by Robert Bringhurst, 7 poems with 1 title. So each one is titled Lute Poem. And they focus on really fine typography and printing beautiful handmade papers. They do the edition together and everybody gets a copy. This one is a project. The most recent one has cave paper, handmade paper, these digital printed end papers, this little bison wood
Oh, okay.
engraving.
Yeah, we got it focused. Nice miniature engraving.
Yeah, Sacagawea fragments. The author is Deborah Magpie Earling. And nice display typography, display fonts. Really beautifully letterpress printed. So this is a group, I've actually kicked them out for the morning. So they're waiting to come in this afternoon and work together. But it's a loose group of people that grows. We get new people, visitors, and some of the same people. The CODEX Foundation, we've done several catalogs from exhibitions that we've been involved in. This one is with, we collaborate with Fernando Andarza, who's kind of our CODEX Mexico person, and he really helped our organization to do this exhibition and catalog, which was printed in Mexico. And this traveled to 3 different sites in the exhibition in Mexico, and then it ended in, there was an exhibition in DC, I believe. So there are things like the catalogs we do. That's the latest catalog from an exhibition that was curated by Peter, Susan, and Roberto Trujillo at Stanford Library. So, and this exhibition moved around, was at the Boston Athenaeum, and designed in the Netherlands. Paul van Kappelveen edited the whole book. So it's quite an adventure. But what's really nice, what's really important, I think, is that all the artists, who participated in this really had someone write about their work in an in-depth manner. so that, you were just talking about that, finding these art historians to write about and comment on the work we're making. And we can really see that happening in this catalog. It doesn't always happen. A lot of times, even if you can get your work in an exhibition, there might not be very much conversation about it afterwards. And so we're trying to, with our publications, address that. And let's see, here's another, we have all of these monographs too. Ulrike Stoltz and Uta Schneider, Russell Merritt, Didier Moutel. These are like little manifesto pamphlets, also very pretty. Our in-house, one of our in-house designer printers, Jonathan Gherkin, that one of them, he is the one. There's not very many people that actually work at CODEX Foundation. It's just 3 of us, basically. Myself, Dina Pollack, who's the managing director, and Jonathan Gherkin, who's kind of studio manager and print shop wonder. But this is the most recent one, and these are just essays, manifesto-like essays about what people are thinking and what they believe is important about their art and craft and making practice. But they aren't always from artists. This one is by Ken Botnick. We have Stefan Soltek from the Klingspor Museum, or maybe a writer, Alberto Manuel. So they can be also librarians, curators, collectors, but I'd say predominantly those are artists. Sometimes they have imagery inside, and sometimes just text. And before I show you, if we have time.
Yeah, we definitely have time.
Okay.
I just wanted to interrupt you for a moment because we have some more people joining our live stream, some more viewers. And please don't be shy. Tell us from where you are you joining us. And today we have a sort of an audience that doesn't want to communicate with us, but well, this happens. We wouldn't push anyone to share their location. But if you decide to tell us from where you are you joining us, and maybe if you have any questions, please post them in the comments under the video. But anyway, Inge, please continue.
Okay, great. Well, I'll kind of head towards wrapping up in a little while, but I did want to point out one new program we have also is kind of an artist book research library, so that some of the artists who exhibit with us at the fair left copies with us of their artist books, and we can use them so people can visit here. So not only just during the fair and symposium can we support the artists and their work, but we can continue to do that all year. And so artists can leave work with us that if we get a tour here, we can show their work, and or if we do another exhibition or catalog, we have work here that we might want to draw from. And the work it's on a consignment program too. It is for sale, but most of the proceeds go to the artist. I picked this book by Mary Marsh because it's on California landmarks. And she's printed these kind of iPhone photographs with photopolymer, I think it's photopolymer intaglio, but then hand colored, and their coordinates of where, I'm not sure if you can see, but these towers are cell phone towers, but they're made to kind of look like a tree.
Yeah.
Like it's a fake tree. So they're California landscapes, but often revolving around cell towers that aren't real trees.
Okay. That's a bit
So
bizarre,
now
but an interesting project.
Yeah. It's really great that we can have artist books here to actually show people when they visit and to help promote the work. Okay, so maybe I'll show you one of my books.
Yeah, definitely.
So ending, I mean, I can always answer more questions or pull other stuff back out, but this was one of, well, not the last, but the book project before the last one that I've done. And it's in a linen bag, which has been printed, and this is thread. And the title is kind of on the flap. The linen kind of works itself into this project because it was inspired by one of America's earliest female scientific illustrators. Her name was Ora White Hitchcock. This is just the outside of the book. She did these, she was a regular scientific illustrator. She drew flowers and botanical specimens, but she did these amazing illustrations on linen for her husband who taught geology. And they were very kind of modern looking. And not what she thought was good art at the time, but now they're amazing. And I used the digital archive at Amherst College, where they have all of her work. And the book really became kind of about, not about her, but about maybe her imagined relationship with her husband, or these, you know, what relationship can be so significant, but in terms of geologic time, such a quick flash to happen. But I've been really interested in lately the book as a kind of geological artifact, this kind of stratification of signatures of pages, like stratification in the earth.
Yeah, that's what I
So
wanted to mention, that this I forget the English word. The cord is the spread, the fent cord that is exposed looks really interesting on this book. That's not something you often see on bindings, really.
yeah, thank you. I also used this. This is like it's really in gardening, like a garden twine, this green twine. So I'm not sure about its archivalness, but these are linen though on the top and bottom.
Yeah.
And then, so there are illustrations, and the whole text is just read like it's a little caption and little bits. So you only get little bits of the story. This is thread that's been kind of knotted. And this real short narrative unfolds slowly as you kind of make this journey across the pages. This kind of language builds, also compacts. The text reads, it's understood between us, and kind of flip to these, the measure of all things. A few words worn around the edges, pressed into something soft and made solid over time. And that's kind of basically the text. And it has handmade paper covers by Cave Paper. Some of it's by Cave Paper and some of it is by Twin Rocker.
Beautiful.
What a poetic work.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me some time to show all of this.
This sort of answers another question: if you still continue to work as a book artist, because well, if that's the second to last of the works you did, and do you continue printing, or what sort of book art is are you interested in at the moment, personally?
Yeah, ever since moving here, I had a big push for the tenure candidacy with my college, and made a lot of work. I had a big exhibition, and that traveled around and showed in different ways, and then moved here. Also moved with my mother, who lives in a little cottage behind our house, and have 2 new jobs. So it's been on pause, but I've really been I printed a few small like broadsides to keep going, and also as part of my class, we're actually making printing chapbooks, an edition of chapbooks for the class, using original poems or writing that hasn't been published before from the archive. So that has been helpful to have, still the making process happening. And now I'm starting to get back in the studio slowly. I have a project in my back pocket that is very, very rough, but kind of committed to getting back in and getting that done in the next year or so.
Interesting. Thank you for telling us about all of this. What is in plans for Codex fairs? How does the preparation work for the next fair usually goes? When do you have to start? Is it like you just ended the previous fair and you start right away because there is so much stuff to do before the next fair is live, or you have some time to relax, to do some other things? How does it usually work?
The pace definitely seems to change, but we do start right up again. I mean, basically kind of evaluating how the past fair and symposium went. And we've already been starting to think about the symposium and symposium speakers. And so the process does kind of start up all over again. And for example, we're addressing if we want to switch to a different registration process and getting another platform for registration. So there are a lot of kind of mechanics of the whole thing sometimes that need sorting through or adjusting or addressing to try to make the event, improve on it. And so I think we're kind of always working on that, but we do shift gears to, like, we've started conversations with the next guest editor for the Codex papers. And one of our board members, Camden Richards, is helping begin the next portfolio, like I showed you. So we're gathering another group of artists to participate in that. So there is a lot of other, programming that kind of weaves itself in and out of the fair and symposium event. But I would say, yeah, we do kind of start right away with some of the process.
Um, uh, for people who are interested in becoming participants of your fair, what are the deadlines? And I have a personal interest in your answer to this question. What are the deadlines? What are the guidelines for a person who wants to participate in your fair for the first time?
Right. So people who have participated, we usually open up registration for the fair first for people who've already participated. If you have participated, there hasn't been a new application process yet. So people can usually sign up, and then there's a certain amount of room that's free that we fill with new applicants. And so there's an application process, and people send, I think, I might not have the dates exactly memorized in my head, but I feel like in summer that happens. Excuse me, I have an allergy. Lots of stuff is starting to bloom here already, so my allergies are kicking in. So summer, there's kind of the call for registrations to start, and then there's for new applications that we have a committee review. And sometimes people, for example, bookbinders sometimes will, especially from a different country, maybe there'll be a handful of people and they'll send one or two people to represent all of their work at one table. Like there's different ways that you can think about approaching having a table. But yeah, then there's the application process and notifying the people, you know, if they've been accepted in. Um, and a lot of times it's just making sure we want people to do well also and not spend the money to travel here and get here and then be frustrated that maybe they didn't sell enough work or so we try to some people we might say you know there's a wait list and they might be waitlisted. Other people maybe you know you're really close but we think if you keep going the next one you might get in, but not that many people are, we don't really turn away a whole lot of people, but we do try to keep it within this scope that doesn't get too, like we don't usually accept a whole lot of sculptural bookwork, for example. Or, you know, not to say that there aren't zines, there are people who show zines, but we don't specialize in that. So there may be things like some people have been very good professional level, amazing artists, but it's just not exactly fitting with what we're doing. And so sometimes it's not a great fit, but I'd say most people get in.
You mentioned sculptural work, and I remembered our talk with Dan Kelm right away, and where he mentioned that one of the first bindings, his personal bindings he presented was a sculptural work, and it was met with very very cold reception by bookbinders because they considered it wasn't a true bookbinding in 1980s or something like that.
Is that the tetrahedron or something?
I don't think it was that. I think it was more a relief work or something like that. But I'm not sure. I need to. It was 2 years ago already when we recorded with them count, or maybe 3 years ago. Time flies. Three. Okay. Anyway, and then he also mentioned that he was amazed when he started trying to sell his works as books as book art at some moment, and pretty soon he realized that if he sells it as art, he makes much more money. So yeah, that was an interesting revelation. I don't know if it still continues to be the same on the book and art market, but anyway.
Yeah, he's a wonderful person and artist. I think I met him when I was in graduate school, and I went to one of these paper and book intensive. He was teaching his wire edge binding back then.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Nice. I think we're getting to our 90-minute schedule or deadline, whatever. Anyway, but I think I asked most of the questions I wanted to ask. I will try to remember if I wanted to say something else. Pasha, do you have anything to add? Anything to ask? Anything else?
Well, we often ask our guests, who would you recommend us to interview sometime in the nearest future? And you showed us so many interesting artists. You mentioned so many interesting librarians. Perhaps you could
You don't have to
recommend
answer us
us.
live, but if you want to answer live, it's okay. If you don't want to answer us live, we can do it via email or something like that.
Yeah, I'm better. Let me ponder. Let me think about that, and I'll send you an email, maybe with some suggestions. What kind of are you looking for? Any type of like crafts person or artist in particular to balance out what you're looking for?
Well,
I'm really
firstly,
interested.
yeah, sorry, Pasha.
Sorry, we always love to speak to artists, to book artists, to craftspeople, but we're also interested in collectors and institutional collectors too, because that is a very closed off world, and you can't easily hear their perspective. That would be my pick.
Okay.
Also, you mentioned that one of the goals of CODEX Foundation is working or improving the diversity in the craft, and that's something we also sort of two white guys, trying to do something about diversity, but still we're always interested in seeing guests of diverse backgrounds and lifestyles and whatever. We had some guests from different countries and regions of the world, which brought really interesting and unusual perspectives on many things. And that's something we want to continue doing. I think we still have many more guests from England than from any other region of the world. But well,
Yeah. Yeah, I can definitely work up a little list. Have you had Islam Ali on your?
yeah, yeah,
Yes, we have.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
had a couple of years ago, I think, as well, and it was a great talk. He showed a lot of his work, and yeah, it was interesting just to know about bookbinding in Egypt in general. So because it's not something you often hear about. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we could talk about other, artists. He's serving on our international advisory board, so he popped into mind right away.
Yeah,
I thought
yeah.
I'd seen on your site that he had talked already, though.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was a couple of years ago. I think it was interesting because he was recommended to us by a bookbinder who was at the moment living in Eritrea, and
Oh,
we first recorded with Islam Ali, and then we recorded with her and talked about book arts in Eritrea, and now she moved to a different country. So her journey continues, which is quite amazing as well.
wow. Yeah, impressive.
Well, it was quite educational and beautiful. So many thanks for joining us today. As I mentioned, I guess I will make several shorts out of it, well, dedicated to your personal work and Codex Foundation and Codex Fairs in general. So maybe before the next Codex Fair, we'll have some material to post already, ready for posting. So please,
Well, thank you. I just want to thank you both again for having me. It's really nice to get to know you a little bit better and to participate. That's really fun.
yeah, thank you very much. And we have our first comment from our viewer. Now, moving parts press. So glad I watched. Thanks to all. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being with us. And next time, please post more comments before we finish our live stream. Please, to our current viewers and to our future viewers, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Instagram, Facebook, whatever. We also have a Patreon account which helps us to pay for research and for editing of the videos, and it's really crucial for us because money covering this stuff doesn't come from the general iBook binding budget. iBook binding shop doesn't have money for that. So if you are ready to support us, please check our Patreon account, and please check the links to Inge's website and Codex Foundation website. There is a lot of interesting stuff there. So and you do have no, you don't. You have Facebook account, but not an Instagram account. I wanted to say that.
Yeah, we have both, both Codex and
Yeah.
myself. Yeah, have Instagram and Facebook.
So check everything. Check all of these things, and thank you for watching. And see you next time. Next time. Next time we
I
have
know who will
we have
have
Kate
next time.
Holland.
Can I?
Next time we
Yeah.
have Pasha, sorry, I ruined it for you. Next time we have Kate Holland, and we'll talk about her binding of Breakfast at Tiffany's, which is like planned to be sold for £1,000,000 or something like that, which is a binding with lots of diamonds or something. So it will be an interesting talk. And she's in.
She teased this book, but she couldn't talk about it last time we recorded. So finally, we see what it's like.
Yeah, and she's in the US with this binding, or at least with the version of this binding, presenting it now. I think I'm not sure. There is some event on East Coast right now, some book fair or something. I'm not sure. But anyway, next week, join us. Thank you very much, Inge. We'll stay for 30
Thank
seconds
you.
or something like that while the stream drops on everywhere on YouTube and Facebook, and then that's it. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Check the links, subscribe,
Bye bye.
send their stuff.